Intelligent talk that's sure to raise the IQ.
Here's Guy Wehman, Ben Brunson, and Frank Vernuccio inside the news.
Welcome back to Inside the News, and this is our international segment. Glad to have you with us, and Frank Vernuccio, Guy Wehman, and Ben Brunson, who's going to be leading off this segment. And okay, Ben, let's talk about the international, China's all-out assault on the United States. We've talked about them possibly hacking into the defense as far as our naval ships and some of that software and everything. TikTok, the president's gone out on that as well. And just your initial thoughts here, and take it over, Ben.
Well, look, we are in a Cold War with China. They are our primary adversary, the same way the Soviet Union was 30, 40 years ago. Except in my opinion, China is a much greater threat. Not that we face the threat of mutual nuclear destruction like we did during the Cold War, but economically, China is a capitalist country that is controlled by a one-party state, the Communist Party. And their economy, of course, is dramatically bigger and larger and healthier than anything that the Soviet Union could ever create because they were a communist society. But you see the Chinese influence and pernicious efforts throughout a lot of media platforms. One is TikTok. That is controlled by the Chinese Communist Party. I don't care what TikTok says, how they have a U.S., an American CEO, or whatever they want to say. It is controlled by the CCP. And thanks to the Trump administration, we know that. We recognize it. We know that TikTok is used to spy on email systems and on the whereabouts of personnel, and all sorts of information are gleaned through that TikTok app that winds up in Beijing. So I do expect that TikTok will either be shut down in the U.S. by the Trump administration, or it will be sold. And because of the credible threat of being shut down, the deal with Microsoft will almost certainly go through, in my opinion, because TikTok doesn't have a choice. And Microsoft would like a social media platform with that type of audience. That's a good outcome. Microsoft will clean up the issues on the servers and the spying and rewrite the software. So that's a good outcome on that. But there are a lot of other companies and issues. Zoom has Communist Party influence. So a lot of Zoom calls, like we're on right now, route through Chinese servers, and there's some issues there. So this is a major issue that we face. TikTok's just one well-known example.
Wow. And Frank, I know that you're on top of this as well in pre-production. I see the notes flying back and forth. Your thoughts?
Well, China's economic threat is clear. I don't think we can ever push to the background its clear military threat, and the two are related. One of the reasons China has moved so forcefully in the South China Sea is, of course, a lion's share of world commerce goes through the South China Sea. If indeed China establishes a stranglehold on that area of the world, well, it has a stranglehold on world commerce as well. We've seen in the COVID crisis how China's monopoly on pharmaceuticals has prevented the United States from taking, I think, much stronger action than it would otherwise take. We saw recently that the president is trying to bring back the pharmaceutical industry to the United States. That's not just an economic move, that's a strategic move as well. One of the great threats we have is that as China's economy starts to slow down, the rulers in Beijing are going to have to find something to distract their population from the fact that the compact they have had with their people, increased prosperity in return for no political freedom, is going to start to crack down a bit. Crack down a lot, in fact. And I think they're going to have to find a distraction, someone to blame. That someone to blame is going to be the United States. And if that involves making that distraction a lot larger through an assault on the United States, I think that's within the cards as well. Not to mention the possibility of a miscalculation. If you go on China's government portal, if you read the China Defense Ministry's speeches, they are quite hostile towards the United States in a very militant way. There is a real danger of a Chinese aircraft carrier commander, perhaps, launching an attack on an American ship for one reason or another, under one excuse or another, in which we could stumble into a war. Don't count that out. It's a very real possibility. If Joe Biden or another liberal Democrat who is soft on defense gains the White House in 2020, that possibility increases extraordinarily.
You know, Ben, we have talked about China an awful lot, but yet they are the bad guys. And in Russia, when we talked about them and the Soviet Union, as they were termed, we saw that communist regime in the Soviet Union over all those years and the oppression of their people. The problem here now with China is that their people have got a taste of, I want to say, like pseudo-democracy. They don't have democracy, but they got a taste of capitalism, and all of a sudden now they have some freedom, and the Communist Party is really struggling to keep wraps on everything, isn't it, Ben?
Well, as Frank said, there's going to be great pressures. China's a big pressure cooker, and the people of China want freedom, of course, like everyone does, and they know they have no freedom, and there is a social compact. It's a trade-off, economic growth for that in return for giving up their freedom. So those issues, as China's labor arbitrage goes away, as the world starts to close the welcome mat, take the welcome mat away from China, there will be pressures. We have natural allies. Russia and India could be our great natural allies. India, we're moving that way. Russia, even though they're led by a dictator in Putin, and it's not a free society as a result, could be our ally versus China. And just the way we made Germany and Japan great allies during the Cold War. Times change. We could have made progress with Russia, but the whole Russia hoax narrative in Washington, D.C. kept the Trump administration from making any inroads there. So these are complex issues, but we need to really focus on our strategic issue that we face, which is China, and a militant China that has a massive military and a growing military threat, and the ambition to use that military to become the hegemony in the world. So that's what we face going forward.
All right. And what we're facing right now is a commercial break. We have to take our time out. But coming up on the other side, it's going to be our election trail segment. Oh, my goodness. We've got so much to talk about. Susan Rice, remember Benghazi? She's not out of the picture yet. And what about Karen Bass? Oh, my goodness. Stay with us.
You're listening to Wehman, Brunson, and Vernuccio, Inside the News.